If you're looking for a home in around the $500,000 range and also looking at the North Indy suburbs, I need you to hear this before you buy anything, because that same budget can get you a newer, move-in ready home in one city, and in another, you might be looking at something smaller, older, or in a completely different type of neighborhood. And I see buyers get this wrong all the time. If we haven't met yet, hi, I'm Cameron Geesaman, a local real estate agent here in the Indianapolis area, and I help people like you not only move to these suburbs, but make sure you're buying in the right one for your lifestyle and budget. So today I'm breaking down exactly what $500,000 actually gets you in Fishers, Carmel, Westfield, and Noblesville, so you can figure out where your money is really going to go the farthest. And I'll be honest with you, some of these might actually surprise you. All right, let's start with Fishers, because this is usually where a lot of buyers naturally gravitate. And honestly, for good reason, because Fishers tends to hit that kind of sweet spot between newer homes, great amenities, and a really convenient location. So when you're working with around a $500,000 budget, this is one of the areas where people feel like they're really kind of getting a pretty balanced deal. Now, what does that actually look like? In most cases, you're going to be looking at a home that's somewhere in that like 2,200 to maybe 3,500 square feet range. A lot of these homes were built in the late 90s through the early 2010s, so you're not a brand new construction, but you're also not dealing with something that feels outdated or needs a full renovation right off the bat. You're typically going to get a 2-story layout, 3 to 4 bedrooms, and usually a decent sized yard. And depending on the neighborhood, you might also have access to things like a community pool, playground, walking trails, all the things that make everyday life just a little bit easier. And this is where Fishers really shines. You're close to everything: grocery stores, restaurants, parks, shopping, schools. Most of what you need is within, say, 10 to 15 minutes, which for a lot of people is a huge win. But there's always a but. At this price point, you're probably not getting the fully updated, Pinterest perfect house unless you're willing to compromise on, say, size or location. You might walk into a home that still has original finishes in the kitchen or bathrooms, or maybe it just needs some cosmetic updates to really feel like your style. And the other thing to keep in mind is that Fishers is popular. So at that $500,000 price point, you're going to have competition, especially for the homes that are updated and move-in ready. So who does Fishers make the most sense for? Well, if you're someone who wants a solid, well-rounded option, good schools, newer neighborhoods, easy access to everything, and you're okay with maybe doing a few updates over time, Fishers is a really strong choice. It's kind of that safe middle ground where a lot of buyers land and feel really good about it. All right, now let's talk about how that same $500,000 looks in Carmel, because this is where things start to kind of shift a little bit. And I'm just gonna say it straight. In Carmel, your money typically doesn't go as far as it does in Fishers, but there's a reason for that. Carmel is one of the most established and in-demand suburbs in the entire state. You've got incredible infrastructure, a ton of walkability in certain areas, amazing dining, shopping, trails, and just an overall polished feel that a lot of buyers are specifically looking for. So what does $500,000 actually get you here? In most cases, you're going to be looking at a home that's a little bit smaller than what you saw in Fishers. Think more in the, say, 1,800 to maybe 2,800 square feet range. And a lot of these homes were built earlier. So 80s, 90s, early 2000s is very common at this price point in Carmel. You might still find a 2-story with 3 to 4 bedrooms, but the finishes are more likely to be dated unless the home has been updated. And if it has been updated, that's where things get competitive really quickly. Now, there are definitely exceptions depending on the neighborhood, but overall, you're trading a little bit of house for location. And for a lot of people, that trade is absolutely worth it, because what you're getting in Carmel is kind of that lifestyle. You've got places like the Arts and Design District, the Monon Trail running right through the city, tons of local events, and just a really strong sense of community. It feels established, it feels intentional, and for some buyers, that matters more than having an extra 500 square feet. But here's the reality check. If your top priority is getting the biggest, newest, most updated home for your money, Carmel might feel a little frustrating at this price point. You're probably going to have to compromise somewhere, whether that be size, updates, or even lot size, depending on where you're looking. So who is Carmel really best for? If you're someone who values location, lifestyle, and being in a more established, highly sought after area, and you're okay giving up a little bit of space to get that, Carmel can be a fantastic fit. But if you're more focused on maximizing square footage and getting something newer, you may find yourself leaning towards some of the other suburbs we're talking about today. Let's kind of shift gears to Westfield, because this is where things start to open up a bit in terms of what your money can get you. And for some people, that ends up being kind of the dark horse of Hamilton County. So what does $500,000 get you here? Well, in Westfield, you're much more likely to find newer construction, or at least newer feeling homes compared to Carmel, and even compared to some parts of Fishers. We're talking homes that are often 2,500 to 3,500 square feet, sometimes even a little bit more depending on the neighborhood. You'll still get that classic layout, 2-story, 3 to 5 bedrooms, open concept living spaces, but the big difference here is that a lot of these homes already have the finishes people are looking for today. Think updated kitchens, newer flooring, more modern design choices. So you're not walking in thinking, okay, what do I need to renovate first? And that honestly is a huge draw. Now, another big advantage of Westfield is the type of neighborhoods you'll find at this price point. A lot of them are planned communities with amenities like pools, walking trails, playgrounds, and then everything just feels newer and more cohesive overall. But there are a couple of trade-offs you need to think about. Westfield is still growing. Honestly, it's growing a lot. So depending on where you land, you might feel like you're a little further out from some of the main shopping, dining, and entertainment areas compared to Carmel or even parts of Fishers. It's getting there quickly, but it's not quite as built out yet. And with all that growth comes the dreaded construction. New neighborhoods are going up, roads are expanding, things are changing pretty quickly. Some people love that energy, and others would rather be in a place that feels a little bit more settled. So who is Westfield best for? Well, if you're someone who wants newer construction, more modern finishes, and a little more space for your money, and you're okay being in a rapidly growing area, Westfield is a really strong contender. This is where a lot of buyers go when they're looking at Carmel and thought, I want more house than that, but still want to stay in the North Indy suburban bubble. All right, now let's wrap all this up with Noblesville, because this is where your dollar can go the furthest. But there are a few things you'll want to think about, and so we're gonna go over those. At that $500,000 price point, Noblesville is typically going to give you the most space and the most flexibility compared to the other suburbs we've talked about. So what does that actually look like? Well, you're often looking at homes that are 2,500 to even 3,800 square feet, sometimes more, depending on the area. You'll still find a lot of 2-story homes, 4 bedrooms, larger living spaces, and in many cases, bigger lots than what you'd get in Carmel or Fishers. And here's where it really stands out. You can sometimes find homes at this price point that are either more updated or give you enough extra space that you don't feel like you're making as many compromises as in some of the other areas. It just feels like your dollar stretches further. One other thing to note, Noblesville is the only city in this list that has new construction homes that are in that 500 range, with new developments popping up on the east side of Noblesville as we speak. Now, Noblesville also has a really unique charm to it. The downtown square is one of my personal favorites here in Hamilton County. You've got local restaurants, shops, events. It feels a little more historic, a little more laid back compared to some of the other suburbs. And a lot of people really love that vibe. But there are a couple of things to keep in mind. Depending on where you're buying in Noblesville, your commute might be a little bit longer, especially if you're heading toward Indianapolis or even parts of Carmel or Fishers on a regular basis. And overall, it doesn't feel quite as polished or as built out as somewhere like Carmel. Some areas are newer and growing quickly, while others feel a bit more established or even a little rural, depending on how far you go out. So there's a little more variety, which can be a good thing, but it also means you need to be a bit more intentional kind of where you land. So who is Noblesville best for? Well, if you're someone who wants the most space for your money, likes a little bit more breathing room, and doesn't mind being slightly further out, Noblesville can be an incredible option. This is where a lot of buyers go when they've looked at everything else and thought, I just want more house without blowing up my budget. So here's the bottom line. At $500,000, there really isn't a one-size-fits-all best suburb. In Carmel, you're paying more for location and lifestyle. In Fishers, you're getting that balanced middle ground option. In Westfield, you're leaning into newer homes and modern finishes. And then in Noblesville, you're getting the most space for your money. It really just comes down to what matters most to you. And honestly, this is exactly where I spend a lot of time helping buyers figure things out. Because it's not just about the house, it's about how you want to live day to day. So if you're thinking about making a move to the North Indy suburbs and you're trying to decide which area makes the most sense for you, feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to have a conversation and help you map it out. Once again, I'm Cameron Geesaman, your favorite Indianapolis YouTubing realtor. And if you found this video helpful, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss future videos breaking down what it's really like to live in these different areas. And if you want to learn more about living in Hamilton County, click this video here, as I think you'll like it as well. All right, thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.